Ready? Plaquemine Parish, October the 13th, council meeting is now called to order at 3:02. Roll call, machines are open. Let the record reflect that we have 8 council members present. Mr. Black is absent. We will have the prayer by Mr. Corey Albro, and we'll have Mr. Roussel lead us off in the Pledge of Allegiance.
We take this moment to acknowledge Almighty God and thank Him for our bountiful blessings, especially for the parish's natural resources. We give thanks to God for our brave and courageous men and women in our military who daily risk their lives to protect our precious freedom, and we pray for our world leaders to know how to attain world peace. We pray that this government body, comprised of both council and administration, will always serve our parish with honesty, humility, and equality to all, and for the wisdom to know right from wrong and the courage to do which is right. And as this government body gathers here today, we pray that we will be spared from all harm and destruction this hurricane season. Amen.
Amen.
All rise. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move to item 3, the proclamations.
Item 3, proclamations. A proclamation declaring October 9th, 2020 as Mr. Charles L. McCarty Day in the parish of Plaquemines. Councilmember Gouy.
unanimous second.
We have a motion by Dr. Gouy. A unanimous second? Yes.
A proclamation declaring Friday, October 9th, 2020 as Charles L. McCarty Day in parish of Plaquemines. Whereas Charles L. McCarty came to Plaquemines Parish in 1943 at the age of 17. And whereas Mr. McCarty was employed in the oil and gas industry until he could enlist into the military. And whereas in 1944, 2 weeks prior to his 18th birthday, Mr. McCarty volunteered in the U.S. Navy, where he served in a gun crew in the Pacific on the Sea Sturgeon ship until the end of World War II. And whereas Mr. McCarty witnessed the famous scene of the flag being raised on Iwo Jima twice. One was a small flag, the second was the second was a posed picture with the ship's flag. And whereas after World War II, Mr. McCarty returned to Plaquemines Parish and worked for Gulf Oil Company in Gulftown. And whereas years later, Mr. McCarty founded a service company, Compressor Automation Controls, receiving a worldwide patent to enable production wells to be shut in case of an emergency. That is now mandatory in oil and gas production facilities. And whereas Compressor Automation Controls became a worldwide manufacturing and service company with 3 manufacturing companies in the United States and in England. And whereas president of the worldwide company Baker CAC, which was in Belchase, Louisiana, Mr. McCarty became a candidate to help start a local bank. His wife, Patricia, named the bank Mississippi River Bank, which is still named today. And whereas on October 10, 1980, Charles L. McCarty was named chairman of the board of the newly formed Mississippi River Bank, a position he has fulfilled admirably for 40 years. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Plaquemines Parish Council, represented by its duly authorized chairman, Carlton M. LaFrance, and by concurrence with the parish president, Kirk M. Lepine, representing the Plaquemines Parish government, that it hereby declares Friday, October 9, 2020, as Charles L. McCurdy Day in the parish of Plaquemines.
Thank you. Dr. Goy?
Well, first of all, Charles L. McCarty. I know we go back a long way. When I met you, when Baker CAC was in operation. And at that time, that was in District 4. And Mississippi River Bank is also in District 4. So I was asked to present these things, and I want you to know, sir, that I'm quite honored to do this. You have been a driving force in our community as an individual and as chairman for the Mississippi River Bank Board of Directors for 40 years. And I want to thank you for your service, and I would like to open up the floor to any council members who may have comments, and then after that, we'll allow the audience to speak. And once that's done, we'll go ahead and vote on the proclamation. Thanks again, sir.
Please key in. Mr. Roussel?
Mr. Charlie? Nice to see you. I'm very pleased today to be able to vote on this. It's an honor to do this. I want to tell you that all of these years that I've known you, and I didn't know you in the earlier years, but I've got to know you in the later years, that it's been a pleasure to talk to you, whether it's been in salvos or in a political function. And while you've been around the business community all of your life, I want to thank you for your military service as well. I didn't realize that you were a witness to the raising of the flag in Iwo Jima, but that is quite an accomplishment and an honor to survive it and be here today. So I know Patty is out there in the audience. She's continued on with her community service. And as always, you know, if I can ever be of service to you, please don't hesitate to call. But it is a pleasure today to see you up and around and getting this honor. Thank you for being here.
Mr. Konovich?
The 5th Marine Division on Iwo Jima who raised the flag. And we furnished them water until we ran out. But we were the first to land troops on the island for that fight. And I was in the gun crew on the starboard side of the ship. My gun was what they call a 3-inch 50. Shot shells for about 6 inches in diameter.
Yes, sir. I'd like to thank you for your service to the country, and thank you for bringing Mississippi River Bank to Plaquemines Parish. It was the first bank I signed up to have a checking account in, and I still have it there today. Thank you.
Ms. Newberry?
Yes, Mr. McCarty, I don't know you personally, but thank you so much for your service. To hear a story, you being part of the, what is it, Iwo Jima? It's quite impressive. But I was also a first checking account at Mississippi River Bank. Actually, my mother worked there in the beginning, quite a few years, and she still talks about it today. But thank you so much. It's great to see that we have a good person in this parish. That means really a lot, so it's a great honor to vote on this today. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'll get it. Before I go to Mr. LaPlante, I don't know the gentleman, but I would like to thank you for your service. It's people like you who make this country great. We owe you a great deal of gratitude. You are a true hero. It's people like you who make this country great. There's no greater love than a man that's willing to lay down his life for a fellow man. Again, thank you for your service. Mr. Lepine?
Good afternoon, Mr. McCarty. And thank you for everything. I see Patty over there. Thank you for everything you've done for Plaquemines Parish. Thank you for your service in the military. And again, opening the Mississippi River Bank, which I still presently have an account there. It's been a while. I always used to call you Mr. Hap. I don't know where that came from, but we used to call you Mr. Hap McCarty. But it's a pleasure. It's an honor for us to recognize you today and thank you for the service that you've brought into our community. And you've been around, and you're still around, and you're still looking good. And so thank you for everything you've done for Plaquemines Parish.
Any more comments from the table? Audience?
Around the world 22 times.
Around the world 22 times.
Saudi Arabia once a month for 1 year to get on the bid list. And after I got on the bid list, the first order I got was $1 million. And then I had 65 people rotating into Saudi Arabia for 45 days on and 45 days off. And it all came out of Helsinki.
Awesome. Could you please come to the mic?
While she's walking out.
I recognize that voice. Could you please key in, Mr. Conovich?
There's one thing that I don't think was mentioned. I just want to put him on. There's one thing that I don't think was mentioned this afternoon, and that is that my father volunteered to be economic developer for 8 years without pay. So for the parish. So I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Okay, y'all looking for some back pay?
No,
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
no, I just wanted you to know that, he volunteered his time and knowledge to do that. He was full-time.
Good, awesome, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'd also like to, whenever COVID gets out of here and we start having historical meetings, I'd like to get him in, have him talk about his Iwo Jima days and all, if you'd like to. Thank you.
Okay, machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0. Let the record reflect that Mr. Black is present. So y'all would like to take a picture, or are we gonna do this one first, or?
Yeah, let's do a photo with him here.
You want me to take a photo? Okay.
Mac, come on up to the front. Mike, you got him?
Change your heart. Go be off my boy. Picked on now. Picked on.
Let me move this out of the way for a second.
I used to have some stuff around here.
How you doing? Good to see you.
Yes, sure will.
I agree. I've seen them. You're a good cousin, Karen.
Glad I didn't have to come to that border with you.
I'm glad you didn't come here. We're gonna have to look at yours.
And here's a little something we have for celebrating our 40th. Kind of fits the mood. It's a mask,
Thank
it's
you
a
very
hand
much.
sanitizer.
Appreciate it.
Custom made.
You could give me a high interest rate on my.
I don't know if it's scary.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'm on. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Go on, brother.
The next one would be? Oh, yeah. We'll move to item B. The next one, proclamation B.
Through B, a proclamation declaring October 10th, 2020 as Mississippi River Bank 40th Anniversary Day in the parish of Plaquemines. Councilmember Gooey.
Dr. Goy,
I so offer and ask for unanimous second.
we have a motion by Dr. Goy, seconded unanimous. Dr. Goy.
Please read the proclamation.
Proclamation declaring Saturday, October 10th as Mississippi River Bank 40th Anniversary Day in the parish of Plaquemines. Whereas October 10th, 1980, 545 investors from Plaquemines Parish put up $1.7 million and took a risk to start a new company, new community bank to offer customers an alternative community banking in the parish. And whereas October 10th, 1980, Mississippi River Bank became the second community bank in Plaquemines Parish and the 10th community bank in the surrounding area. Mississippi River Bank is the only remaining bank today. And whereas after Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, Mississippi River Bank was the first to provide banking service in the southern end of the parish. And whereas the customers of Mississippi River Bank have fully supported their local community bank, and whereas Mississippi River Bank has supported many civic, social, and business organizations throughout the parish and surrounding areas. Whereas the Board of Directors, management, and employees have always strived to be an intricate part of our community, providing the best service with home-style flair for 40 years. And whereas on October 10th, 2020, Mississippi River Bank will celebrate its 40th anniversary, and whereas the Plaquemines Parish Council commends the 40th anniversary of Mississippi River Bank Board, management, and employees on a job well done. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Plaquemines Parish Council represented by its duly authorized chairman, Carlton M. LaFrance, and by concurrence of Parish President Kirk M. Lepine, representing the Plaquemines Parish government, that it hereby declares Saturday, October 10th, 2020 as Mississippi River Bank 40th Anniversary Day in the parish of Plaquemines.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess it goes without saying that last Thursday, due to the pending threat of a hurricane, we did not meet. This proclamation and the previous proclamation was set to be taken up on that agenda. Because of the cancellation of the meeting, we're taking it up today. So I just want everyone to know, we are aware that those dates have passed. Well, I would like everyone to be fully aware that for the last 40 years, the directors for Mississippi River Bank were a who's who of community leaders within our parish. That trend still exists today. I want to personally thank Mississippi River Bank for taking care of my accounts, and double thank you for the loans that you granted me. And Mac, I know you were there the whole time because you were there when Moses was around, so. The proclamation does speak for itself, though, about the impact that Mississippi River Bank has had on this parish for the last 40 years. I would like to open up the comments to the council members and then parish president and then the audience as we did before.
Any comments from the table? Please key in. Mrs. Newberry?
Yes, I just want to thank Mississippi River Bank for being around for 40 years and servicing the people of Plaquemines Parish.
Mr. Konovich?
I'd like to thank y'all for being down the road and hope one day get you back down there. And maybe since this is the 40th anniversary, we could get some, maybe 40% interest on our checking account, maybe.
Might charge you.
Thank y'all.
Well, maybe you can get better interest rate on the Belle Chase Bridge. Mr. Parish President?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bush, congratulations on this day. Very esteemed honor, 40 years in business, still going strong. And just want to thank you for your service and your commitment to the community. Thank you.
Any comments from the audience? Machines are open. Mr. Black?
Yeah, I haven't hit the button, so I'm not sure what happened. Verbal, yes.
Let the record reflect that the measure passes 9-0. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Executive session. We'll move to item 2.
Item 2, executive session. 2A, executive session pursuant to LRS 42:17A10 to receive attorney-client privilege information with regard to the ownership and land rights to Coast Guard Road, Councilmember LaFrance. 2B, Midway Cattle LLC versus Plaquemines Parish Government, 25th JDC, case number 66234, Division A, Councilmember Roussel. C, Plaquemines Dirt and Clay Company LLC versus Plaquemines Parish Government, 25th JDC, case number 66276, Division B, Councilmember Roussel. D, Woodland Borough Pits LLC versus Plaquemines Parish Government, 25th JDC, case number 66285, Division A, Councilmember Roussel.
We have a motion by Mr. Roussel to go into executive session, seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any comments? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0. We will go into executive session at 3:26 p.m. We would like to return from executive session at 4:24 p.m. No binding or final decision was made in executive session. We'll move to item 4, status report by the parish president. Before you start, Mr. President, let the record reflect that Mr. Alborough is absent now. Thank you. Mr. President?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As of today, Louisiana Department of Health has reported over 10,000 Plaquemines Parish residents have been tested for COVID-19. Out of the 10,000 tested, 806 residents have tested positive and 19 deaths. According to LDH, the last COVID-related death was recorded on July 31st. Governor Edwards has moved Louisiana into Phase 3, and Louisiana will stay in Phase 3 until November 6th. Indoor gatherings such as weddings, birthdays, and other events can operate with 50% capacity or up to 250 people. Here are some highlights from his announcement. The Phase 3 for another 28 days until November 6th. The mask mandate stays in place. Excuse me. Only major change is alcohol sales will be allowed at sporting events. Specified guidance will be issued for fairs and festivals soon. 3 weeks ago, Plaquemines Parish opted into the government's Phase 3 restrictions. Plaquemines Parish has less than a 5% positivity rate, making us eligible to reopen businesses that have been closed since March. New nursing homes regulations in Phase 3, or outdoor visitation is now allowed statewide. Due to the close timing of Hurricane Delta, our crews and staff were prepared. A huge thank you to our teams for working so hard and swiftly to ensure the safety of our residents. Thank you to all our parish, state, and federal partners and our residents. We want to remind our residents that hurricane season is not over. Please continue to remain weather aware. The 2020 census has been extended through the end of the month, October 30th, through October 30th, to October 30th, till 2020. Please stress to your constituents in your district the importance of the census. We are working to release a breakdown by the census tract of the parish response rates, which will be located on our website. We are currently at 56.3 response rate. In 2010, the last census was given, Plaquemines Parish completed with a response rate of 56%. Looking forward to growing our response rate in the remaining weeks. Parish-wide football registration has begun, and registration will be ending this week. The 2020 football evaluations for Belle Chase area will take place Wednesday, October 14th. There is a community bingo tomorrow, Wednesday, October 14th, at the Dave Van Community Center at 10 a.m. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is my report.
Any questions from the table? Mr. Roussel?
Yes, the other night on Fox 8, they reported our positivity rate at 11%.
We were in the 5% when we opted into the Phase 3, so the bars could open. It has probably increased. I'm not sure of that number, but
But if it goes over 11%, do you have to shut the bars down?
I don't think, look, I'm going to have to get with some of the state officials, with the local state marshal, the state fire marshal officials, and find out.
Okay, well, thank you.
Audience? We'll move to the next item, please.
Update by civil service on open jobs is deferred. Update on the coronavirus in the parish, Councilmember LaFrance.
The president just answered the question. Thank you.
Okay. Update by the charter directors.
There any questions or comments for the directors? The only thing I would like to add is that I had a phone call from the Homeowners Association from Myrtle Grove, seeing if you was able to, Mr. Lapine, to set up a meeting with you, the director, and Mr. Dugas, the issue with covering the drainage during the hurricane. So anytime you can set up a meeting, I appreciate it.
Okay, we'll get on that.
Thank you. Any other comments from the table?
My only comment is that I'm still getting people on Covert Road wondering when we're going to cut Covert Road. We cut one corner of it, and then we skipped over because they had to go somewhere else, and it hadn't been cut in like months.
We're working in Jesup Bend right now, we're working our way up the road.
I know, but the last time I talked to you and you cut that little piece, you sent me that picture and it looked so nice, and then you said you had to leave, you know, never got back.
We went back to the regular location where we started out. We had went across the bridge to help out on Engineers Road with DOTD, and then you got that complaint, so. No. We just, like I said, we went across the bridge to work with DOTD to dig out the ditches on Engineers Road so we could cut them, and then they sweep out the ditch over that way. And then, of course, you asked about the one spot by Mr. Fleming's house, so we cut it and then went back down the road to Jesup Bend area, where we left there to go to Engineers Road. So we are working our way up.
Right, my only point is that when the tractor's there and he cuts, you know, 150 feet, he could cut the rest of the 600 feet while he's there instead of leaving and driving by it to go back somewhere else. Just a manner of management and how I would do things, and I'm not you, but I would recommend that while the equipment is there, you just finish the next block.
Okay. We'll work on it, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Donald Valet, 109 Nancy Court, Jesup Bend. As you know, we've talked in the past about the new flood elevation coming out. I've talked to Mr. Blank, Mr. Trudeberg, about possibly having a meeting down in Jesup Bend about the new elevations. I've asked Mr. Lapine today, particularly because we saw Mr. Metcalf was going to be on the agenda to discuss the new flood elevation. Unfortunately, Mr. Lapine said he's sick. He's got an illness or something. He won't be here. Unfortunately, and I've talked to Ms. Hazel, who's our assessor that's here today, of how that's going to affect Jesup Bend. We've heard from previous testimony from the engineering company that talked about this as going from a low-risk area to not a moderate, but a high-risk area. We've seen on the social media publications already that people are moving back into the parish, want to know where to move to. They talk about Jesup Bend and the parks. And people come back and respond already, don't move into Jesup Bend. The flood elevations are going to go out of sight. So we need to get to the bottom of this. We heard from the engineers, there's funds available for another lift on the levee behind us, but yet the contract hadn't been let yet. And at the same time, we talked about trying to get you all to file on behalf of that to what the new elevations would be when it's completed so that we could get the flood maps adjusted accordingly. Where is all this and who's doing what? Thank you. I don't know who can answer me. Mr. Russell, you're the only one that has seemed to know in detail with these for years.
I'm not in control. The gentleman sitting at the table down there are in control. I just ask the questions because of my history and knowledge of the issues, but I would hope that we are addressing the issues. We did get an email saying that there are some potential costs. We've got to come up with a couple $100,000 to get the consultant, Mrs. Kennedy, back on the job to be able to move forward in that direction of trying to get us there. There are a lot of other costs with the State Highway Department raising the highway and the railroad. So there's a lot of money involved in this issue, and I think there are some creative ways to address it, but the first step is getting about $250,000 together for the consultant. Now, I don't know if there's been any negotiation with the consultant. I haven't negotiated with her. That's not my...
But do we need a consultant
Well,
to look at the flood maps that are there now and to file this extra elevation?
if we have no one in-house to do it, that's the only thing that I don't know what qualifications we have in-house. I do know that we have a flood manager, and we have a chief building inspector, and we have several titles around. What qualifications they have, you'll have to ask the administration if they are capable
You know,
of doing this
I've been to the last 3 or 4 meetings when the flood manager was supposed to be there and didn't appear. And we're here again. I understand illnesses in Quebec and all that stuff, but we can't just rely upon this entire parish on one person.
Look, you can't rely just on me either. You got to rely on some other people out there in the audience to be able to carry the weight of this issue. In fact, the other people in here that are affected should be asking these questions as well. But I would hope that we can get to that point, and if we don't have the qualifications, on payroll now, then we need to look at the payroll and get somebody qualified.
Listen, I'm the first one to admit, that all these guys do a good job. They're working hard, they're working thin, and there's not enough money to go around. We all recognize that, but some things need to be put ahead in priorities, what needs to be done. Thank you. Please.
Would y'all like me to address that issue?
Please.
So the email that I sent, I forwarded to everybody on the council today, was from Melissa Kennedy with HNTB. She laid out a list of things that needed to be done. There's a coastal evaluation that needs to be done. There's a survey of interior polder area, channels, bridges, and culverts. There's a drainage survey that needs to be done. There's H&H analysis. There's a number of forms that need to be filled out for the Corps of Engineers. She put a cost estimate toward all of this kind of thing. If we were to hire HNTB, which is her firm, to do this, her cost estimate was anywhere from $220,000 to $350,000 to get us a letter of map revision. Letter of map revision is to ask FEMA to lower the floodplain, the base flood elevation in the Jesuit Bend area, because there's a levee lift that's about to happen. Part of the problem is that there's no southern end closure. So even though the levee's being lifted, the southern end closure does not fall in that project. So she's willing to do this for us. We don't have the resources in-house to do this. If we want to put the money up to hire a company, and I'll go out and try to solicit other companies if you want for me to try to get other bids, but 220 to 350 is her estimate on what it's going to cost to produce a letter of map revision to ask FEMA for lower base flood elevations in the Jesuit Bend area.
And while we're talking about that, we have some of this information that should already been generated by engineering firms. You have a drainage study in her area that's been paid for and supposedly, working. I think if we pull all of the resources that we have together, we could reduce her cost, is my point. The negotiation with her should be able to be had, and we ought to be able to reduce that number
We'll be happy to sit down with her and try to reduce that number.
by gathering the information that you already have paid for.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, I have two concerns. One is the tractors on the East Bank. We only have 2 tractors that's cutting grass. Anybody have an idea when we'll be able to get at least 2 more over there to assist in that, cutting the grass on the levee?
The other 2 tractors are at SCS, at the mechanic shop in Belchase, and they are working on them. As soon as they get the parts and get them running, we'll get them back out there. But right now, yeah, you got 2, and 2 of them are at the shop.
It's been a long time, been over a year.
No, it hadn't been over a year.
Oh, yes, it
Just-
has. Yes, it
Just
has.
recently, so.
Yeah, yeah, it's been over a year. Well, I'm not finished.
Mr. Rousseau?
I'm
I'm not
frustrated.
finished.
I know you're frustrated.
I'm not finished. Hold on. No, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to him. My other concern is the culverts.
He don't have to talk to you if I tell him not to talk to you, so, okay?
No, that's not, see, you're not even listening to what I'm saying, Kurt. I'm talking to the gentleman at the mic. I don't have no more questions. You don't want him to talk to me, so I don't have any more questions.
Mr. Rousseau, $250,000 and throw $350,000 to the council in the strip budget that the parish has right now is astronomical. I would ask that before you spend that money, even consider it. Let's look at a revision. If FEMA considers changing the flood maps, how much is that going to change the savings to the people in the parish to whether it's worthwhile doing? I mean, all we're talking about is the changing of the flood maps for rating purposes as to what the bill is going to be. It might be cheaper to give all the residents out there $200,000 and spend $350,000. But before we spend it, let's look at the numbers. But somebody needs to do the work. I mean, you've done this. You and I have talked years and years ago about these elevations. Sometimes it's worthwhile. Sometimes it isn't worth the paper it's written on.
Dr. Goy?
Yeah, my only comment is that we can't afford not to do something. And I would really appreciate if we just had some kind of a timeline or a timetable. That, look, we're going to look into this next council meeting. We're going to let you know what our plan is and move on it. Because the residents in that area as I said, we can't afford not to do this. We've got to do something to get an answer and try to get those elevations done. So that's all, Kirk. If, like next week, at the next meeting, if we could have a report on it, I think it's a move in the right direction. We can put this thing to bed.
Mr. President?
Mr. Bartholomew, my apologies to you. My apologies to you.
My question was to find out what's going on with the culverts on the levee, back levee from Phoenix to Bohemian. Because we've been working on it, and it's week work. I don't know what's the steps that we're going to take, because they hadn't been done in the last couple of days, but they initiated. I guess the first step in trying to address that issue in the one in Port Lash area. And my question, two question phase was, you don't have to answer today, we'll come back with it. Are we still protected with FEMA on that back levee because it was a federal levee? Not just to assuming, now do we have that in writing that we all are all right with FEMA? Second is, how long will it take us to get to where we have be able to complete that specific project that has been mandated by FEMA? Thank you.
Mr. Blank?
Sir. Todd, I'm willing to meet weekly on the Jessup Bend levy issue to where we could all stay on the same page and keep the ball rolling on it. I've been in contact with Senator Kenney's office about the issue. The $10 million, the estimate to close that southern opening, so between the Naomi siphon and the river levee, talking about $3 million for the clay levee, the tie-in to the concrete wall, and it looks to be about $7 million to raise the 4-lane highway right there. It's a heavy lift. I know that, there's some steps that we need to do before then, but I think some folks out in the community do want to know where we're at on it. We talk about it here, we talk about it in emails, but maybe getting out in the community. I think we're maybe due for another community meeting on the issue, just to show folks where we're at. Because, we communicate about it internally, but just need to get the word out. So, thanks.
There any more comments? Audience? We'll move to the next item, please.
5, bids and advertisement. A resolution authorizing the acceptance of bids for furnishing valves for a period of 1 year for use by the Water Sewage Department.
Do we have the price of that?
Yeah, it's all here. That last column.
Oh, I don't think so. Not really.
They don't have a
Not that I know of, at least. Oh, the levies. The levies. Trying to get them, trying to get the base.
Do we have a motion?
I'll offer.
We have a motion by Mr. Blank, seconded by Mr. Roussel. Any discussion? From the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 8-0. Next item, please.
6, beer and liquor licenses. There are none.
That special event I have.
There was no alcohol.
Okay. All right. Next item, please.
7, building permits. Will there be any taken in Globo?
Yeah, we'll take item 1, 2, 3, 4, and Globo.
That area for a long time, and I actually held that permit, not this one in particular, but the original permit, preventing work there because I was hoping some drainage work could happen. I was worried that we were going to impact residents. If the company is going to go ahead and do a ring levee around that area, if we could please ask them to get the ditch right there, we could alleviate drainage for conservatively like 35 or 40 houses. There's some banana trees that are growing in a ditch. It's a super straightforward solution. That's the highest spot. I've walked it out a few times. It's the Huey-Galmiche drainage request. I think I've renewed it about 3 times or so, but I'm happy with getting the company to do the work. If they're going to be doing a ring levee right there, is there any chance maybe the administration could reach out to the company and ask them to do the work themselves, or could we just have our own equipment rolled down there to get those banana trees out of that ditch so those folks can have some relief? They'll have standing water for weeks on end. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
How you would like to proceed on that item, Mr.?
We could take them in Globo.
Okay.
You represent item 4?
Oh, great.
Oh, there you go, Rich.
How convenient.
Arterman and Associates Incorporated, application number 2020-546, dated July 23rd, 2020. Drill 4 soil borings and perform 8 cone penetration tests for foundation design. Alliance Refinery, Councilmember LaFrance. Texas Petroleum Investment Company, application number 2020-687, dated September 24th, 2020. Install pile clusters, rock pad, drill the SL 1998, number 46 offset well, and install caisson well protector, 8-inch pipeline and 3-inch gas lift line. Breton Sound, Block 21 and 28, Councilmember Bartholomew. Texas Petroleum Investment Company, application number 2020-688, dated September 24th, 2020. Install pile clusters, rock pad, drill the Breton Sound Block 28 offset well, and install caisson well protector, 4-inch flow line and 3-inch gas lift line. Breton Sound Block 28, Councilmember Bartholomew.
Thank you. We'll take item 4 by itself.
Okay.
So do I have a motion on?
Offer.
I have a motion by Mr. Bartholomew, seconded by Mr. Blank. Any question from the table? Audience, machines are open. And the measure passes 6-4 with 2 extensions. We'll take item 4 by itself, please.
Key Operating Company, application number 2020-694, dated September 28th, 2020. Excavate for proposed ring levee, install drill pad and drill well location, UVA SL 18165, well number 2. If productive limestone will be required, Highway 11 and Packard Lane, Buras area, Councilmember Blank.
We have a motion by Mr. Blank,
Yeah, I'll offer.
seconded by Mr. Konovich.
First off, thank you, gentlemen, for doing business here in the parish. We appreciate y'all being here. What's going on is just to the north of your drill location, there's a bus barn, and there's a drainage ditch and servitude right on the upstream of the Mississippi River side of that facility. And what's going on, there's just some banana trees that are growing in it, but they're really causing a backlog through the whole area, and probably even impacting the drainage of the front part of the access to your site. If you have the equipment there, we would greatly appreciate if y'all could pull that plug out for us. It would really, really help the residents out.
Sure. My name is Matt Khanna. I did the wetland work and the regulatory side. This is Jordan Woods, who's representing Key. So I'm familiar with both of the ditches up to the bus barn. So this would be north of the bus barn?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll ask Jordan here if that would be a problem. Usually that sort of equipment wouldn't be a problem. I know the ditches were in pretty good order at our location, and to the main pump ditch, but I'm not familiar with that exact spot, so it may take a little coordination between us to figure out exactly where,
Certainly.
but it doesn't sound like a big job.
It would be a huge help, and I'll get my contact information to you.
Yeah, I'm going to go down there tomorrow morning and take a
Please
look.
state-
I don't know exactly what you're talking
Please
about.
state your name and please
Oh,
state your name.
I'm sorry. My name's Jordan Woods. I'm an engineer with Key Operating. So I'm gonna go down. I don't know. I know the area, but I don't know the exact location of the trees that you're talking about. But I'll take a look at it, and I don't see any problem getting that taken care of.
Perfect. It's exactly one lot north of the access road, and I'll give you my contact.
Okay, understood.
Any more comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open.
Thank you, gentlemen, very, very much. We appreciate it.
And the measure passes 6-4, 2 extensions.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
We'll take item B, C, D, and E in Globo.
Paul Durnan, RV trailer in a floodplain zoning district, parcel number 1620351, Port Sulphur, Louisiana, Councilmember LaFrance. Ryan Abear, RV trailer in floodplain zoning district, parcel number 1620351, Port Sulphur, Louisiana, Councilmember LaFrance. Cole Wilson, RV trailer in a floodplain zoning district, 2765 Hermitage Road, Lake Hermitage, Louisiana, Councilmember LaFrance. A resolution approving the issuance of a special permit to Walter Landry for the construction of a storage shed in a floodplain zoning district at 15684 Highway 23, Belchase, Louisiana, in accordance with the application number 2020-717 dated October 2nd, 2020. Councilmember LaFrance.
Also offered.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Blank. Any questions from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 8-0. Next item, please. Yeah.
9, ordinances and resolutions on second reading and final passage. Oh, I'm sorry. 8, introduction of ordinances and resolutions. An ordinance pursuant to Article 3, Plaquemines Parish Boat Harbor, Section 6-41, to set the rental rates for boat slips at the Port Eads Boat Harbor and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Off as read.
No, that's introduction, sir.
Oh.
A resolution
Okay.
A resolution authorizing the Plaquemines Parish government, represented by the parish president, to do all things necessary and proper to negotiate, perfect, and execute a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Plaquemines Parish Assessor's Office for the cost sharing of professional services for the collection of data and the valuation of certain oil and gas personal property located in Plaquemines Parish for the 2021 ad valorem tax year and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance. Okay.
Introduction.
Ordinance to amend the 2020 operating revenue budget and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance. A resolution to provide employees group insurance coverages consisting of medical, vision, dental, and life for the policy period January 1, 21 through December 31, 2021 on an employer-employee contributionary basis of 72%, 28%, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance. A resolution authorizing the parish president on behalf of the Plaquemines Parish Council to certify to the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development that the Plaquemines Parish government has compiled with all FHWA DOTD requirements in 2020 relative to bridges located in Plaquemines Parish under the Plaquemines Parish government jurisdiction. Councilmember LaFrance. An ordinance to amend the Library Services Fund 2020 operating revenue and operating budgets, Libraries Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
Gave it to you, yeah.
An ordinance to establish and adopt a policy with regard to final judgments for money damages and establishment. A resolution to adopt the Plaquemines Parish Government Priority List of projects for the proceeds from the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund Energy and Donor Report. Councilmember Kognovich. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan dredging maintenance boat harbors project and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Kognovich. Number 9, ordinances and resolutions, second reading and final passage. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of property of Tract 1, Miss Jenny Jordan et al. And Leonard Jordan, Division, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots 1A, 1B, and 1C, and the dedication of a 5-foot utility servitude, Naomi, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the plans and plat of survey by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated July 15, 2020, the owner having fulfilled all of the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Blank.
Offer is read.
We have a motion by Mr. Blank. Second. Seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any questions from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 8-0.
An ordinance authorizing and establishing a policy and procedure for payment of outstanding final legal judgments and unpaid settlements against Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Blank.
I'd like to offer is read.
We have a motion by Mr. Blank. Second. Seconded by Mr. Konovich.
I'd like to offer a substitute. This is a substitute that was drafted by our council attorney, trying to reconcile some of the issues, and some of the issues that I have with it. Oh, wait a minute. We're on the legal judgments, right? Where that, I'm trying to separate claims versus judgments. We have on the agenda today a claim that we are going to pay, and I wouldn't want it to be part of the judgment policy. And this is the original that I had introduced some time ago. And I sent this out by email a couple of weeks back, but that's what I offered, asked for a second.
We have a motion by Mr. Roussel.
I'll second.
On a substitution. Seconded by Mr. Blank. Any comments from the table?
Yes.
Mr. Black, hold on.
Yeah, Mr. Burris, we've had this conversation before regarding judgments. Is there any mention, and I don't see it, in regards to sanctions? Are we not addressing sanctions at this time?
No, we're not. Well, first of all, I guess I haven't seen a substitution, so this is a lengthy document. I'm not going to be able to comment on it because I don't exactly know what changes were made. So let me say that. With regard to the judgment policy that I adopted, that Mr. Blink introduced, The answer is no. There's nothing specific in there about sanctions. The sanctions, as you know, the Fourth Circuit has declared to be a judgment, and so therefore, we're treating it as judgments. And so therefore, the plaintiff in that case who received a judgment would be entitled to pursue his judgment, just like the other tort victims, if you will, or the other judgment claimants.
And why wouldn't we have something specifically in this particular ordinance that specifies just that?
I don't think it's necessary. In other words, we're treating it as a judgment. The courts have treated it as a judgment. I don't know that there's, in other words, I think the courts have ruled on that, so I don't understand why we would make that distinction in the ordinance when it exists by operation of law.
Yeah, I mean, I've read the Fourth Circuit's decision on that, and I think there is a level of ambiguity in it, and I'm just trying to protect the parish in this case by listing it within this ordinance. But then again, you're the parish attorney, and unfortunately, you haven't had a chance to opine on this particular one.
I just want to be clear, this is what Danny Garrett sent many, many months ago.
This is the original version that we had talked about. It's been going back and forth for months. I'm not sure who's read it, who's not read it. But, you know, I even sent out the changes. In fact, I'll send another copy out right now as to the comments made by Danny on this issue. Now, I'm not pushing this issue, but Mr. Blink decided to move forward with it. So, in my opinion, I don't think that we should be linking settlement claims with judgments, because of the fact that in the original that was presented, you're putting settlements and judgments in the same box, which eliminates the fact that we are going to be able to settle.
Let me correct that briefly. The ordinance that I drafted, the only settlements that are part of the judgment policy or quote-unquote unpaid settlements. So in other words, those have been confected settlements that and there's only one that I'm aware of, that for some reason opposing counsel signed the agreement. It was a settlement agreement, and the council never appropriated the money. Okay, so that claimant has never been paid. We all know that claimant cannot force payment through the court system, but that claimant should be treated just like all the other judgments. With regard to settlements, my ordinance that I drafted from Mr. Blink actually says that settlements are different. They're treated differently. So I don't know why. Let me pull my ordinance. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I read it, Mr. Blink. My question is just that I'm not sure why the attorney hasn't had a chance to review it. I just feel uncomfortable not having a parish
I think
attorney.
you're insinuating something that is absolutely false.
No, I'm not insinuating. He just said that he hadn't reviewed it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, can I say?
That's all I said. I'm not insinuating anything.
Can I?
He's actually had many months to review it, and it's been on his desk for a while.
I just repeated what he said.
We could let this hold over. We could let this hold over for yet another cycle, but he has in fact had many months to review it. I want to say many months that Danny's version has been on his desk. So the thing is, it seems that these are just two competing schools of thought, and one of them is going to get the votes to pass and become law, and the other one just is not. But we could wait until we're in the county seat, but we will not skip over it like we have been, because it is a lengthy discussion, and because of the ferry issues and all the other things down there. In the meantime, you know, there are our residents, our constituents are in some cases literally starving because they do not have any sort of income because they are hurt, which happened due to the negligence of this government. And we need to make those folks whole. Now, there's a whole other part of this, which is actually making an appropriation. That's the next thing. Do we have any money for that? No, we don't. But we need to have a good policy in place. And I'll respect the fact that, Rennie, maybe you need a little bit more time, but he has, in fact, had very much time to review that. So please do not insinuate to the public that I'm trying to ramrod something through
Time
here.
out.
Thank you.
All right, can I,
Mr. Black.
thank you. I have no idea what you're talking about insinuation. I haven't insinuated anything. All I did was repeat exactly what the parish attorney said, that he did not review it. That's it. I never insinuated anything. I read it. I know that we have 9 outstanding judgments, 7 judgments, 1 consent, and then 1 sanction. So I know we have, and I know the dates. It goes back to 2002 is the earliest one we have. So I read all of that, Richie. I'm not insinuating anything. All I'm saying is I'm surprised that the parish attorney has not had a chance to review it. I don't know when he got it. I don't know if he got it at the same time we got it, or if he's opined to you or anybody else, or Mr. Russo, who put up this ordinance. I don't know. All I did was just simply repeat what the parish attorney said. So I'm not sure why you're attacking me on this issue. I just said,
Because I've watched these videos in the past and watched you drop tidbits like that that might make it seem that somebody's in a hurry or somebody has a purpose other than what's stated. But in fact, that, Rennie, did you receive this months ago from Danny?
Okay, so I'd like to.
Yes or no?
Address, well,
Did you receive
well,
it months
Mr.
ago
Russo
from
said, yeah, I'm looking at it now, and it's something that's familiar to me. But let me say this. He just said, I'm offering a substitution. And when he said that, he didn't say on the front end, this is exactly the same one that was presented by Mr. Garrett a long time ago. And certainly before this hearing, he never called me to say, hey, and not that he has to or an obligation to say, oh, hey, you know, this is what I'm proceeding with. I've sent you all emails a long time ago about my thoughts and about why the one I drafted was appropriate. I do want to address a specific question that Mr. Russo said about somehow my ordinance is treating settlements the same as judgments. That's not true. If you read the ordinance I drafted for Mr. Blink, section 2-115 says exclusions, and the exclusions are, this article shall not apply, meaning the judgment policy we drafted, shall not apply to claims for which the parish is not afforded the protections of Article 12, Section 10 of the Louisiana Constitution or Louisiana Revised Statute 135109, which is about settlements. And then B, if you look on the last page of the ordinance I drafted, it says, nothing contained in this article shall be construed to prohibit the council from compromising and appropriating funds to settle an extant litigation, which means current ongoing litigation. So when Mr. Russo says my ordinance treats settlements, ongoing cases for us to settle, and unpaid settlements and judgments the same, I think that's, I just don't think that's accurate. I think what's more important than that is when you look at Mr. Garrett's proposal, it's just a completely different process. I mean, it's just something that's totally different than what I'm proposing. It's not like Mr. Russo took my ordinance and just said, oh, I'm trying to correct this settlement v. unpaid settlement judgment issue. You know, like, in other words, I'm just trying to correct Rennie's ordinance on that. It's a completely, totally different process. And so I think that that's the important thing that needs to be said. And I'm sure you all read this. I'm assuming Mr. Russo told you all he was going to offer this as a substitute. Maybe you all had an opportunity to read it. I just want to say, and I sent an email on this, so I hope I'm not, you know. Our thing was basically there were threats by opposing counsel that we didn't have a policy, right? And so the whole point of this was to develop a policy. I consulted with attorneys in Orleans Parish, Orleans School Board, Jefferson Parish. I consulted with our own in-house attorneys and various folks. And this is the reason we settled on this policy is, number one, it's a very similar policy that the Orleans Parish School Board did, and the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is the appellate court in our jurisdiction, said that this was appropriate. In other words, this was an appropriate judgment policy to be, that could be adopted. And so therefore, I'm absolutely confident that the judgment policy I prepared is a constitutional one. The second aspect about this policy is, and I think this was a concern that council members had, was that it takes the politics out of the process. Essentially, what would happen is you all would appropriate the funds, whether that's $100,000 or whether that's $1 million. You appropriate the funds, and then the claimants all come together, and they reduce, basically they bid, and whoever bids reduces their judgment by the most amount, that's the person who's first in line to get paid. Now, whether or not we can afford to pay that full amount with whatever was appropriated, we would pay that claim out. If we had additional funds, we would go to the second claim, pay that out, and whenever we ran out of funds, we would give that last claimant, if you will, the opportunity to accept what's available, and then when the next pot of money is appropriated, they would get that off the top before we would pursue this avenue, before we would pursue another, what we call compromise period. The other thing, it takes, once again, it's the politicking takes out. This is totally up to the claimants. The claimants get to bid. So it's a competitive process, just like public bid law, except here people are bidding to reduce. And so it doesn't get into, well, does Rennie like this claimant? Does the council member from District 9 like this claimant? Should we offer him 75%? If we go down the whole list and they all say, no, I don't want 75% reduction, or I don't want a 50% reduction, then the question becomes, well, what do we do then? Okay, how do we then go back and negotiate? Do we then say, okay, well, no one's agreeing to reduce by 50%, so I'm going to offer them a 40% reduction? And do we treat them all the same? And do we go in chronological order? Those were all concerns I had. That's kind of the reasons why I developed this. It takes the politics out of it. It leaves the bidding process in the hand of the claimants. It requires an appropriation on the front end. And it allows you all to tell the folks who are bugging you all to get paid to say there's a policy in place, it is what it is, and it kind of takes that discretion away from y'all. So that's why we adopted what we adopted. And let me just say, I didn't review it, well, I didn't review it before the meeting, but it's not the policy of this legal department to settle anything. In other words, sign documents until the money has been appropriated. I am not going to go out and offer 75% reductions, 50% reductions, unless I know the funds have been appropriated. Okay, because then what happens is if we start making those agreements and you all haven't prior or previously appropriated those funds to pay those judgments, then I'm going out in bad faith saying, oh yeah, I got the money, I can make sure you get paid, and then the money's not there. And then what we end up with is like what we had with one of the claimants. They actually signed the paperwork, the judge signed off on it, the parish attorney signed off on it, but then the money was never appropriated. I don't work like that, and that's not a good way to work with other attorneys, because your word is your word. And so my ordinance basically says you appropriate that money, and then we start the process till the money's exhausted. If this is saying, Rennie, go out and negotiate all of this for 75% and get signatures and then come back to us and we're going to appropriate the money, I can just tell you that right up front, that ain't going to happen. So if the first claimant in order, say, is $1 million judgment, and Mr. Garrett's policy or the policy being proposed says 75%, you better have $750,000 appropriated before I try to go negotiate a settlement. Or because once this person accepts that offer, they're expecting to be paid. And I'm not going to go before a judge and try to explain why I offered something that I couldn't deliver later on. So I'll shut up and let you guys have your say.
Mr. LaFrance?
Hold on, Mr. Black, you finished? Mr. Russo?
Yeah, that's not the intention of all of this. If you look at the comments from Mr. Garrett on the policy, we're on the same page pretty much. However, there are some problems that we see with the process. For instance, if you look at the comment period, section 2-113, compromised period, we disagree with the proposed process. First, this must be fine for what is out there now, but it does not appear well-suited for future judgments. Also, why...
Wait, I'm sorry, just slow down a little bit and say specifically what you're...
Yeah, let me give you the...
I don't have that. Okay. Well, and can I just say this, Mr. Russo? No one sent me this. So we're addressing
All right, let me say
a very let me finish. We're addressing a very complicated issue you, and I'm not saying you and the council attorney have to consult with me, but, you know, if he had specific questions or concerns, it probably would have been better for him to bring those up with me before the meeting. But
Let me say this, Mr.
I can go comment by comment if you'd like.
In order to save time, I'm going to defer my substitute at this time, and Mr. Garrett will be at the next meeting, and you can go back and look through your emails, and you can review all of this. You and I have had personal discussions on this issue, and we have disagreed on certain aspects of this from the beginning. And at this time, I'm not prepared to waste all of the public's time trying to litigate this at the table. Now, I would appreciate it if everybody would read the comments from Garrett and take yours into consideration, but I think that the changes that are being made to this ordinance are in the best interest of us to keep us from having to get into a position just like the comments made on C. You know, I think that having claimants coming in with offers will create a difficult political situation. If you got all the claimants coming in making offers and there's no money appropriated, they shouldn't even be coming in.
Well, it's a, well, no, they
Right,
wouldn't be
so-
making offers until the appropriation was made, first of all. Second of all, it's a sealed bid process. So they're going to make an offer, whatever the lowest, or in the case of the parish, whatever the best offer is, it's what's going to be accepted pursuant to the ordinance. So there's no politics involved. And if you look at, if two individuals say they're going to reduce their budget by, I'm sorry, not their budget, their judgment by 50%, the person who has the oldest judgment takes precedence. There's no politics in that at all. You bid, you bid, what you're trying to do is encourage people to reduce their judgments by bidding a competitive process. And let me make one other comment about why I have concerns about the flat offer across the board, is you're actually treating judgment creditors very differently. Because what Mr. Garrett's ordinance says is you're waiving all judicial interest and you're waiving all penalties, and I think in this one it's 75% of the judgment. What you're doing is you're treating judgment creditors who had judgments from 10 years ago a lot different than you're treating judgment creditors who just received a judgment last week. Because the law says that you're entitled to judicial interest from the date of demand. And if the council chooses not to pay that individual for 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is, that's what the law says the accrual is. And so if you adopt this policy, what you're saying is the person who got their judgment last week, they're not waiving any interest, right? I mean, they're not, the money that they were allegedly entitled to, they would have never accrued a lot of interest. So if you take all the interest off from the guy from 10 years ago and the person from 1 week ago, in my mind, you're unduly punishing the person who had an older judgment. Because you're basically saying, guy who got a judgment last week, oh, here's basically all your money. You have no interest to waive. But the individual who had a judgment from 10 years ago, say it's a $100,000 judgment and $50,000 in interest, you're saying, oh, well, sorry, you lose your $50,000. And so you are, in a way, treating those individuals differently.
And right now, we're treating them no way. Nobody's getting paid.
Well, I'm not disputing that.
This is a voluntary program, Mr. Burris. You know that. So I'm not going to debate anymore. But I represent the fisc of the government. And the reason I say 50% is because I want to make sure that the public gets the best deal possible in these negotiations and these settlements. And so if we start at 95 and say, let's make a deal, bring me an offer, somebody comes in with 95 or 85, I don't like that idea, let's make a deal. I like to have something firm, and we'll wait till the next meeting as far as my substitute to discuss this. Because, first of all, we're wasting a lot of time when we have no money to pay anybody anyway.
Well, the policy that, my concerns with adopting a policy isn't necessarily that you're going to have the money next year or 10 years from now to pay this. My concern is I have attorneys who have made allegations that we've arbitrarily and capriciously paid judgments, and that the fact that we don't have a policy troubles me if I got to go into federal court and start explaining why litigant A got paid and not litigant B and litigant C. So it's not so much that I'm rushing a policy so that you all can, pay everyone off. It's that if we do get sued and we go to federal court, I got to look at a judge in the face and say, Your Honor, The policy we adopted has previously been approved, and certainly if it goes to the Fourth Circuit, the court's going to say, oh, yeah, we looked at this policy before, and we've approved it, and it's constitutional. So that's one of the reasons I chose this, and it's not Rennie Bureau saying, oh, just pay everybody. It's so that if we ever get challenged, I can look a judge in the face and say, Your Honor, we have a policy. The litigants may not like that they're not getting paid, but it's not randomly done. It's not politically done. And as far as I can tell, this process treats all the claimants the same, or at least puts them on equal footing.
This policy that we are proposing is done by many governments around the state. And you know that the federal system is different than the local system, that if the federal government gets a judgment in federal court, they can come and seize whatever they need to seize. You know that's a totally different game, so you're comparing apples to oranges.
No, I'm not. I'm not, because actually the federal judgments, are excluded from the policy.
Mr. Roussel said that he's going to defer his substitute. Mr. Blank, he's
Thank you
going
very
to
much,
defer it.
Mr. Chairman.
So we'll move from this item.
It's falling off.
Okay, so what I would
Now
like
we
to do...
just reintroduce it.
Thank you.
We'll go back to item 8.
Could I make a comment?
Introduce what, if
No.
anybody?
Chairman,
I'm
if I may...
sorry, I'm sorry, but
Mr. French, could I make a comment?
once they deferred it,
I understand
it's
that.
over.
The problem is the public sees this debate and gets the impression that you all are going to start settling claims. And that's not anywhere near what it is. You don't have any money. And furthermore, if anything, like what you suggested the other parishes have done, you allocate it in your budget hearings. If there's any money that you can forecast in your budget to settle claims going forward in years to come, that's the time to put together a policy.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Valley.
So, Mr. Chairman, what I would like to do is I would like to reintroduce what's falling off. And Rennie, I'm going to call a meeting between you and Mr. Garrett, and we're going to try and work out most equitable policy possible so that we do have an active judgment policy in place here at the parish government. Thank you.
We'll move to item 8.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no objection, I'd like to move back to item 5 and reintroduce the policy, an ordinance authorizing and establishing a policy and procedure for payment of outstanding legal final judgments and unpaid settlements against Plaquemines Parish government. My version, Mr. Garrett's version.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Black?
Yeah, I apologize.
Okay, Mr. Black?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to have to excuse myself. This is a Tuesday meeting, which is not regularly scheduled. I have family obligations, pick my kids up in a little bit, so I have to leave the council meeting. Just want to let people know where I'm going.
Take care.
Thanks.
Where you want to move?
I would like to move back to item 5, 8, introduction. 8,
It's 8.
8.
Whatever number item.
Pick a number. Pick a number.
Introduction is item 8.
Okay, 8.
I kept saying 8.
Used to be 5.
Oh.
Oh, that's an ordinance authorizing establishing a policy and procedure for payment.
Wait, your mic's not on.
Okay.
An ordinance authorizing and establishing a policy and procedure for payment of outstanding final legal judgments and unpaid settlements against Plaquemines Parish government, otherwise provide with respect thereto. And so offered,
Okay, you
My-
realize you read Rennie's version, right?
I introduced my version.
You said unpaid settlements. This is what you...
All right, I have it. I'll reread it. In order to establish and adopt a policy with regard to final judgments for money damages and establish the procedure for the settlement of such judgments and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
And then, Councilmember
Mr. Blank?
You want to do the original version? Okay. An ordinance authorizing and establishing a policy and procedures for payment of outstanding final legal judgments and unpaid settlements against the Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Okay. We'll move to item C, and that is 9C.
A resolution authorizing the parish president to advertise a request for proposals for professional services from qualified real estate brokers, agents, and advisors to assist Plaquemines Parish government with the sale, lease, and marketing of its surplus property and any other services incidental thereto, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Gouy.
I'll offer.
We have a motion by Dr. Gouy, seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any comments from the table?
They're on the actual RFP that's going to be sent out. Some changes have been made. I know Mr. Burris isn't here, but I'll try to handle those. If you look at the attachment, does everyone have the attachment? At the top of the attachment, it will say Plaquemines Parish Government Request for Proposals, Real Estate Broker Services. Page 1, it's got overview, scope of, everyone's on the page. On item 3, which is the schedule of work, we added to include the council members in whose district the property is located. If this passes, we will be approving a list of properties that we would like to be put up for negotiating a sale. And it would behoove us to have the council member of that respective district be involved. So I'm sure what will happen is the council members will bring, many of the council members will bring to the administration areas that should be considered for sale. So that's been added. The other area that's been added, if we'll go to the third page under 5, which is qualification requirements, some language was added on the 6 bullet, where it should be in yellow if everyone has it. And the addition says to please use separate schedules for sales and leases. Under Louisiana RS 33:4712.12, commissions are permissible for sales but not leases. Assistance from leases should reflect an hourly rate for services rendered, and other miscellaneous expenses / fees should be reflected in the fee schedule but not expressed as cost plus. So, Mr. Burris, I had explained that the first little change, addition that we went. Is there anything further on that particular section? I know it's clarifying sales and leases.
Yeah, I mean, I think it speaks for itself. The Attorney General wrote an opinion at one point in time that basically said it would be an illegal donation just to grant commissions to brokers who assist with property transactions, whether that be a lease or a sale. The legislature came in and adopted the revised statute that's cited in the RFP, which basically says, no, we're going to allow on sales, or at least the language only specifically says sales, we'll allow a commission fee for that. The statute does not address leases, so I believe that the Attorney General opinion still applies for leases. And what the Attorney General opinion did say was that obviously you can pay an hourly rate for services rendered, and obviously any other type of services that may be offered through the transaction would be appropriate, but that you could not just give a blanket commission on a lease.
And that would be reflected in the proposals? I mean, the people making the proposals would have that in their proposal?
Yes, correct. So there would be a professional service agreement basically saying that. So the way I envision the process to work is the administration provides, in consultation with council members, the administration provides a list of properties to whoever this broker is going to be and says, these are basically surplus properties. We're not experts. You tell us, should we lease this property? Should we sell it? What can you do? We present all that to the council, and then the council says, Property A, we hereby declare surplus, but only for the purposes of lease. Property B, we hereby declare it surplus, and we are okay with either a lease or sale, depending on whatever the broker can get for the parish, and just go down the list. And then once it's established how we want to treat that property, well, then the broker goes out and does his business. Now, sales are a little different than leases. Leases, on sales, basically, you just have to establish that you got fair market value for the property, and so the government can't give away property. Leases, as you all know, I think, or should know by now, are kind of a more regulated process and procedure from the state statutes. So what I did is in the RFP, I cited those statutes and stuff, and so I'm going to leave it up to these professionals to go read the statutes, and then when they present their RFP to us, or I'm sorry, their proposal to us, they'll let us know basically what they think it would look like for a lease, and obviously they would have an obligation to make sure it comports with state law, so that when we do lease the property, we don't run into any headaches down the road.
And there's a couple of other questions for clarity that I think should be made before we open it up. There is a section that states a proposal review team will evaluate the proposals. And then President Lapine and I have had a brief discussion on that. Rennie, you and I have had a brief discussion on that, but I think it would behoove us to just give your thoughts on the review proposal team, that not only would be reviewing the proposals and making a recommendation, but also reviewing any acts of sales or potential acts of sales and leases before it's brought back to the council for the final approval. Could you comment a little bit on your thoughts?
Yes, sir. As we spoke, Dr. Gouy, excuse me, that we'll go through the RFP process. We'll convene a committee like we usually do. Once we've established that, we'll report that back to you, and we really would like the input of the councilman of that district when a piece of land or partial comes available. And but you know, it's very, it's key that we get the broker's input that if it's better to sell, better to lease, and let them make that observation. But we are in agreement that, you know, working together with you guys.
But you would definitely name a proposal review team to do that.
And one other thing, Dr. Gouy, I think it's just clear to say up front, the council has to declare the property surplus on the front end, and then all transactions have to be approved on the back end. So on the back end, the council has to come back and authorize the sale, and as you all know, I think that requires 2/3 vote. So it's not like once you declare it surplus, we're just going to go out and do what we want. Everything has to come back to you for final approval, whether it be sale or lease.
That's correct. That's correct. And then one other thing has to do with the proposal due date. It says that the proposals would be accepted by November 6th at 3 p.m., but it really doesn't say, and we will give an answer by such and such a day. We talked briefly about that, and you had an explanation as to why we don't.
Well, it's going to depend on, so we put in RFP that all of the proposals will be received by Mr. Espadron in his office. When the proposals are actually open, first of all, it's partly going to depend on who the review team is, because obviously all of those individuals need to be together when we decide to go ahead and open them, and then everyone will receive everything at the same time, everything will be transparent. So that's partly going to depend on who the review team is. If you read the RFP, and I know we're all eager to probably get started on this, but when we open up all the RFPs, I don't know how many proposals there'll be. There might be 1 or there might be 10. So that's going to take a little longer to review each of those. We may look at 1 or 2 proposals and say, you know, oh, we got some questions about this, we got some questions about that. And the RFP and the whole process allows us to call in the proposers and say, can you explain this? Can you explain that? And so I didn't put hard, fast dates on this because the process could be a very short one, or depending on how many proposals we get and how complicated they are in the process, it may just take a little longer before we get to the point where we actually select the proposer, the contractor.
And in that same vein, there's nothing in here to say that any formal presentation is required by any of the proposers. In other words, it's just saying, well, we look at the paperwork and we can make a decision from there.
Only if requested. I mean, if we request, if we receive 3 proposals and there's a clear winner, there may or may not be additional meetings or not. We may see some things we like in other proposals, et cetera. We may say, oh, because there's a part of negotiating that's going to take place on the back end. So we receive the proposals, they are what they are, and then there's a negotiation about, okay, what's this final agreement going to look like? And then from there, we proceed with the agreement and the process, and then the whole process about declaring property surplus, et cetera, et cetera.
My questions are answered, I yield.
Mr. Russo?
So the proposals will all be opened at the same time?
Yes.
The review committee?
Yes, yes.
Mr. Konovich?
The one now we working on, is this going to go into that, or it's?
No, nothing is going to prevent, just so you all are aware, nothing's going to require us to go this route. So if there are properties that we can easily do in-house, or that you all have previously identified as something, that we don't need expertise on, that we already have fair market value, we already have a willing buyer, et cetera, we can proceed with those properties through this process. So number one, nothing requires that this contract be exclusive. And number two, nothing requires that we use them for every piece of property we may either sell or lease.
Thank you.
Any more comments from the table?
One more thing.
Dr. Gouy?
This thought process was initiated by some of the council members sitting here, and it was...
Can you speak up a little? I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time.
The reason we're here, because there were council members who brought up questions about this, and we also had a situation with the tomato shed and the clerk's office and the piece of property that was dividing 2 pieces. That property is now in the ownership of Plaquemines Parish government, correct?
Correct. That transaction is finished.
That's done?
Right.
Okay. So I'll open it up to any further questions of the audience or whatever before we vote.
Any more comments from the table? Mr. Russo?
My only comment is that Dr. Gouy is correct. We had passed a resolution to this body quite some time ago to ask the administration to market the properties. And so this is a natural step forward.
Any more questions from the table? Audience?
Rob Forshey, 116 New Street. My only question is, are we going to make public the pieces of properties that we are looking at selling off? Are we going to make those public to the citizens of the parish?
The answer is yes. The parish, before we can sell or lease anything, the parish council has to pass an ordinance declaring that property surplus, which means it's no longer needed for a public purpose. So there will be an introduction made and a vote and discussion here at a council meeting regarding those properties.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any more comments from the audience? Hearing none. Machines open. And the measure passes 7-0. Next item.
A resolution urging the legal department to review existing leases, renegotiate the leases, and provide a report to the council and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Russo.
We have a motion by Mr. Russo, seconded by Mr. Konovich. Mr. Russo.
Yes, this is just a request that the legal department look at.
Please key in. Go ahead.
This is just a request that's recommended by the audit committee to have the administration to review existing leases and the opportunities they see to renegotiate leases to move in that direction.
Any other comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-0. Next item.
A resolution of the Plaquemines Parish Council to establish the method for appointing the new Register of Voters in Plaquemines Parish and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
Kim, did we put a date?
Yes, sir, you have the current links pass out. It was in your blue folder.
You gave it to me?
Would you like me to read the fill in a blank for you?
Please.
Yeah, I knew that.
On line 24, we're going to fill in the blank
Right.
with October 15th, 2020. Line 30, fill in the blank of October 20th, 2020. And on line 37, fill in the blank with October 22nd, 2020.
I so offered.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Roussel. Any comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-0. Next item, please.
A resolution authorizing the Plaquemines Parish Community Agency to prepare the necessary application to the Louisiana Workforce Commission receiving the Community Services Block Grant Funds for the program year 2021, and authorizing the President of Plaquemines Parish Government to sign and submit said application and contract. Councilmember LaFrance.
I so offered. Seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any discussion from the table? Audience? Mr. Konovich?
Y'all have a list of projects y'all going after?
Mr. Kognovich, these are the Community Action Agency grants, and this funding is used to assist the residents of Plaquemines with utilities and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any more comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-0. Next item, please.
A resolution authorizing Plaquemines Parish Community Action Agency to prepare the necessary application to the Louisiana Housing Corporation for a grant to provide utility assistance to the residents of Plaquemines Parish for the fiscal year 2021, and authorizing the President of Plaquemines Parish Government to sign and submit said application and contract and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any comments from the table? Mr. Roussel.
Yes, this is a utility assistance grant also. So the previous grant is going to be utilized for utility assistance also?
Yes, she used the money, speak from right here. The grant specifies what she can use them for. This one is the LIHEAP, the one we're working on is the LIHEAP assistance, which is utility. The one before was the community service block grant. That one can be used for utility assistance. It can be used for, to help with administrative, to defer administrative costs, like salaries, office supplies, and things like that.
Okay, thank you. You might want to stay for the
Yeah,
next
you,
one.
yeah, stay there. Any comments from the table? Audience?
Next two, the next two.
Donald Valley. Mr. Roussel knows, I just finished serving my term on the Louisiana Housing Corporation's board. One of the concerns that we had when I was on that board was that the application of use of the LIHEAP funds for utility assistance to people was being utilized by the same people year after year after year. It was not spread across the board. And I ask you, when you do use your funds and put them out there, that we serve the entire communities and not the same tenants that know how to use these and work the funds. Be careful how you disperse them.
I know that's been the history. I don't know, do we have a waiting list for utility assistance?
We have a waiting list, Mr. Roussel. We also advertise in the Gazette, and we do have a list of people that do use the services regularly, but we also reach out to other members that we know about.
So I guess my question is, if you have a list, a waiting list, do you revolve that list, or do you have the same constituents using it over and over, like Mr. Valley said?
No, we revolve it. We work the list.
Be careful.
Any more comments from the audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-0. Next item, please.
A resolution authorizing the Plaquemines Parish Community Action Agency to prepare and file an application with the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development on behalf of the Plaquemines Parish government for a grant under 49 CFR 5311, formula grant for rural areas, and/or 49 CFR 5339, grants for bus and bus facility program as amended to provide public rural transportation to the residents of Plaquemines Parish, and further authorizing Plaquemines Parish President to execute and file with such application and assurance or any other documents required. Councilmember LaFrance.
I so offered.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any discussion from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-0. Next item, please.
An ordinance to amend the General Fund 2020 Operating Revenue and Expenditure Budgets Community Action Agency Department, CSBG CARES Division, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
I so offered.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any discussion? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-0. Next item, please.
An ordinance to amend the General Fund 2020 Operating Revenue and Expenditure Budgets Community Action Agency, CSBG General Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
I so offered.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any discussion from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-0. Next item, please.
An ordinance to amend the General Fund 2020 Operating Expenditure Budget, Community Action Agency General Department, and the Community Action Agency Department Emergency Food and Shelter Program CARES Division, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any discussion from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-0. Next item, please.
An ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a donation for the Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness Department and to amend the General Fund 2020 operating revenue and expenditure budgets, Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
I so offered.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Newberry. Any comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-0. Next item, please.
An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, Reach C Culvert Phoenix to Bohemia Project, and the Levy Lift WBV 9A project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Offer as presented.
We have a motion by Mr. Bartholomew. Second by Mr. Konovich. Mr. Bartholomew.
Offer as, you have questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Where are you pulling the money from for this, for the project?
It's not on there?
It is, but it's in Levy Lift WBV 9A, you know, which many folks at home might not realize where that's at. Just want to clear it up.
WBV 9A is the section by Captain Larry's, it's the flood wall. It's from Mississippi River levee to the stop log gate.
Got it.
It's that section. That project was completed, they have money left over, and this is concerning with the culverts that Mr. John was asking for earlier. In October, we were going to start the culvert project, which is cleaning and inspecting that we have to do through CPRA and the Corps to stay in the federal system, which is an email I sent Mr. John out, that we are in the federal system. And it's just to add to the pot, because we did one pipe, we've completed that one. We went to the next section, which have 3 pipes joining. So we had enough money to do 2, so we added a little bit more money from the WVV 9A, which that job is complete. So we wouldn't have to demob and then mow back later and cost us $50,000. So we're going to do all 3 of them at one time. And if they got a little bit money left over, then they'll have 5 other pipes to do. And the next set is a batch of 4 pipes together, and the very last one is 1. So it's just moving money from the levee project to Mr. John's culvert project to stay good with the state and the Corps, showing that we are inspecting and cleaning the pipes. So the next section after that would be for CPRA to help out and close them and abandon them solid. But we have to go in and do the diligence of clean and inspect.
Thank you, Scott.
And we do have 3 years to finish, 3.5 years to finish all of them. So after we do these, we started on it in October, but the storm comes, so we had to stop, move the machine.
To be doubly clear, though, the funding for this project is coming from an East Bank levee project and not anywhere else, correct?
It's coming from the West Bank going to the East Bank.
Got it.
Yes.
Please stay there, sir. Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, I just want to let Mr. Blink know that this $33,000 is pulled from that Oakville North, like he said. That will also clear out that project. That's the last bit of the funds. And also, that'll add to Mr. Bartholomew's project. How much more, do y'all know how much more is needed from Mr. Bartholomew's project? Are y'all going to be asking for more, or will this is enough money to complete the project? Do y'all know?
Not complete the whole project. We'll be able to close off these next 3 pipes, culverts. We'll be able to do them, and like I said, we got 5 others to do. So we got 3.5 years to do it. So we'll just have to wait down the line to be able to get a little bit more money to do the other 4, and then that one by itself. So, yes, possibly later on.
You finished, Ms. Newberry?
I'm done.
Mr. Roussel?
So how much is the project that you needed to get the rest of the pipes
But
done?
it was, Ken, we went through with, forgot the company's name, but it's like close to $180,000 to do the 3. And then we had the extra money in case something happened or something changed while we in there doing the project. And if we got money left over, it'll go to the next set.
Finished, Mr. Roussel?
Yeah, I'm just curious. The original project, we have been told, was about $1 million.
Well, we're trying to do it in-house with parish employees, the major part of the work. We do have to get an inspection company out and the cleaning company out to do it. We're going to open it up, close it off, and secure the surroundings while the other company comes in. It's SCS that comes in and cleans and inspects and video cameras and sends the reporting to the Corps and the state.
So we're just taking some West Bank money and putting it on the East Bank?
Yes, sir, to help out that levee project, that culvert project.
Look, it's a habit around here to talk about where the money comes from, gone, so West Bank helping the East Bank again.
We helping parish,
West Bank helping the East Bank again.
okay?
You're not biting it on him?
All they're doing is just replacing the money that they borrowed a couple of years ago.
Any more questions from the table?
Nine didn't borrow no money.
No.
Any more questions from the table, from the audience?
I just want to, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to commend the parish employees that were down there, because I was watching them do the due diligence on that Point LaHatchie area by the water plant, how they embedded the, protect the pipe to clear it so that it can get all the water out, that they can start doing the drainage and the cleaning of it. They did all that themselves within the parish framework. So that means they work real well, and they did a pretty good job in getting it done quickly. So I just want to thank them for doing that.
Thank you. Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-0. Next item, please.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to have the Belchase Ferry run 30 minutes after the end of all Belchase council meetings, and the Point LaHashe Ferry run 30 minutes after the end of all Point LaHashe council meetings, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Offer as read.
We have Mr. Bartholomew, seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any questions from the table? Mr. Blank?
Can't create special rules just because we're having a meeting, but I understand the logic and the reasoning.
Okay. Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, I was kind of a little confused with this legislation because we moved the time up to 3 o'clock. Now we're to the point, if we're going to go past, 9 o'clock, I mean, it's time to adjourn, so, I mean,
Mr. Konovich?
Well, I know last meeting over there, I had to drive to Belchase to drive to Venice, so I'm good with it.
I would like to ask, what would be the end time of the meetings, so we would know what time to hold the boat till?
I don't know. I don't think any of us know.
So you're okay with us telling our employees
It might have.
that you're just going to have to work until we tell you, and then you can go home to your families, whatever time that may be? I mean, that's basically
Well,
what this is saying, correct?
My thing is that we know that sometimes we have meetings, not only for the board, but as well the constituents as well, that has to travel so far around. Now, If it doesn't happen, then we don't need it. So the question is, do we want to accommodate or not? If they don't want to do so, I don't have a problem with it. I'm just trying to offer something what the people asked me to do.
And
My
the
constituents.
administration's tried to work with you
Yeah,
and the
I'm
rest
just
of the
saying what the
council
people want.
after these meetings to try to get people across the river. So if you would like to set an end time to a meeting and say that, on council meeting days, we're going to run the Belle Chase Ferry an extra 30 minutes, and that's going to be till 10:30, I have no problem with that whatsoever. But if we're telling our employees, civil service employees, that you're not going to work your regular shift, you're going to work until we tell you that you're going to go home to your family, I don't believe that that's fair to our parish employees.
That's not every council meeting. It's only 2 council meetings a month, and it may not happen every council meeting. So
I
it's not
don't
going to be
believe,
done.
I
as a
don't believe it's
permanent
fair
thing.
to our civil service parish
So
employees.
I'm still saying it's an option, and as far as the civil services, it can be done. They tell me it can be done. Looked into it. From the state standpoint, it can be done. But again, it's up to the board if they decide they want to do that, to represent the people, giving people a chance to get back. And that's what we're looking at. And that requires the safety part of it, because people sometimes stay long, and it's going back to some ladies, sometimes they be by themselves, walking, traveling that road. So again, it's just a question of what we're trying to do, accommodate the people or not.
Yeah.
Whatever the majority of this council goes, I'm not arguing about none of that.
Yeah, since we had put the meeting to 3 o'clock pre-em, I don't anticipating the meeting going past it. So, but I don't think we're gonna need it, but if it's there, it's there. Please state your name.
Rob Forshey, 116 New Street, Belle Chase. Well, I don't think we have any problem with the meetings in Point LaHash of lasting past 9 o'clock, right? Because the air conditioning is going to shut off, lights are going to shut off. Let me see here. I mean, I'm surprised the doors are not locking automatically, huh? So, I mean, 9 o'clock is going to be the latest that any meeting's going to last in Point LaHash. At least the last meeting was controlled by that.
Yeah. You have anything to say, Mr. Konovich?
Here we are, we didn't have a port meeting, we had 6 o'clock, so.
Yep. So, any more comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure fails. 3-4, 4 against. Next item, please.
O will be deferred.
You want? Withdraw item P, withdraw it. Q.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to include a right to audit clause in all parish contracts and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
No.
I'm sorry, Rousseau.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm a little cuter than him. We have a motion by Mr. Roussel. I'll second it.
Yes, what this does is ask just what it says, ask the administration to include the right to audit in contracts that are signed. Not that we will do audits all along, but it'll have the right to do it.
Any comments from the table? Mr. Blank?
How would that impact different entities wanting to do business with the parish? Would it make it more difficult? I mean, I absolutely agree and have the need for more transparency than less, but would that put off any potential vendors or contractors?
Yeah, so let me say this. I appreciate and understand what Mr. Russo's trying to do, and I'll definitely am willing to work with him to get where we need to be. The problem that I have with this ordinance is that we are legislating specific contractual terms from the dais, and I don't think that's an appropriate way to do this, because I can think of, right off the top of my head, about 4 agreements or contracts that I'm not going to be able to get this language introduced in. One example is our MOU with CPRA. CPRA uses its own language. It's not going to allow me to come in and change the right to audit language. And so then the question is, the parish president and I are in a box. Either we sign the contract in violation of this ordinance, or we don't sign the contract at all, and, you know, the parish loses out on $10 million. The other potential areas I see a problem with is, say, like the AT&T contract we receive federal fundings to provide internet services through our library system. I can tell you right now, AT&T, and the other contract I'm thinking of is the cloud services, where you know, we're going to put everything on the cloud. I can tell you right now, Microsoft is not going to amend their contract to put this language in it. And so then, once again, are we going to provide the internet services through the federal grant program or not? And then the last example would be, say, like our legal contract agreements with third parties. Obviously, there's certain routes and remedies should we ever get in a dispute with our attorneys. Now, what I will say is we currently do right to audit clauses in our engineering agreements. We do them in our construction agreements through Public Works. I think what one of the objectives Mr. Roussel is aiming at is the grant, so the YMCA grant, the Volunteer Fire Department agreement. Anytime we give money, obviously we're in a position of strength and leverage there. We would want to put those, we would want to put something like this in there. So I think I would be more comfortable if we adopted something that wasn't, because the way I read this is basically it needs to be in every contract. And I'm just telling you right out the front, that's not going to happen. But if Mr. Roussel wants to work with us and say that we want this language in engineering contracts, contracts where we provide grants, you know, contracts for construction, and I'm sure there are several others that I'm thinking of where I think it's probably going to be appropriate. Obviously, I'm okay with that, or if he wants to put a catch-all in there and say, when the parish attorney, the parish you know, president deems it appropriate, or, you know, whatever, I'm certainly willing to work with him on that. And that's my comments.
Mr. Roussel?
I don't have a problem deferring the item, but I do want to see us make some type of a policy to have it on writing that we can audit, because when we run into a small contract that we can't even audit, you know, this comes from the Internal Auditor's Department and making recommendations, and like I said, I don't have a problem working with you to get the right language. So I'll defer the item till next meeting.
Okay, we'll move to item R.
An ordinance to amend the 2020 General Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Legal Judgments Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered. Seconded by Mr. Blank. Any discussion from the table? Mr. Roussel?
You know this discussion's been beaten up a lot today. This ordinance says Legal Judgments Department. Do we open ourselves up to any liability by saying that this is a legal judgment?
No, sir, we don't.
Even though it says legal judgment on the ordinance?
Well, it says judgments and damages is how finance is interpreting this, but if you read the ordinance as a whole, you'll see in the recitals where it's specifically for this particular case, which is a case we're settling, not an outstanding judgment or unpaid settlement.
Take your word for it, but
I'm sorry?
I'll take your word for it on this one. We'll see. All right, that's all I have.
Any more comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-0. Next item, please.
A resolution establishing the dates, times, and places of public hearings on the proposed 2021 operating budget and on the proposed capital improvements budget covering a period of at least 5 years as submitted by the parish president, to authorize the council secretary to place the necessary public notice in the Plaquemines Gazette pursuant to Section 7.02A and Section 7.05C of the Charter for local self-government, parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
Please fill in the blanks.
Actually, I emailed you this yesterday. I spoke to Tommy Serpas in the Finance Department because part of this resolution includes a section to fill in the blanks with when the public can view the budget at the finance office and at the libraries. And right now, he's trying his very best to present the budget to us on the 22nd. But if that doesn't happen, it'll be a special meeting later. And not knowing that date, we can't adopt that resolution right now.
Okay, so we'll defer it.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Roussel?
We have to have the budget by November the 1st.
Correct.
Are there advertisement requirements that we need to comply with?
Yes, sir. Once the budget's presented, we have to wait at least 10 days to do the notices and to, we just need to wait 10 days. We cannot hold a budget hearing without a 10-day gap between when we get it and when the actual budget is discussed at the meeting.
So do y'all have any idea when y'all are going to be able to give us the budget? The 28th is what you're saying?
What's that?
No, I was just going to say, he believes they're trying their hardest to get it on the 22nd at the next council meeting, but without knowing when the books will be ready, we don't know when they'll be presented at the library, which means we're just at an impasse right now. We're just waiting to find out if we get it. It's actually already on the agenda to be presented on the 22nd, but they don't know for sure that it will be, but they are trying very hard to do it.
It should be easy. It should say B-R-O-K-E, broke. Come on, Mr. Valen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I heard was you talk about this will be available at the library and where else?
In the finance department.
Why don't we have it on the website in legible form that the public can read it and accessibility?
It'll be on the website.
It'll be
It will be on the website.
in form and format that's legible, because everything comes out so small, you can't read anything you put on the website.
Well, the format will be how it's scanned on an 8.5 by 11, however the budget's presented. I mean, there are very small words on the budget, but, you know, it's on a normal-sized piece of paper, so.
Okay, and it's also going to be in the Gazette, publicized publicly? That's the
There's
official documentation?
notices go out in the official journal. The whole budget, to my knowledge, won't be in the Gazette. It'll just be the notices that the budgets are available and a notice of when the hearings are going to take place.
And when do you anticipate that the public can attend line item by line item?
The administration is striving to have the budget given to the council members on October 22nd. I don't see any reason why, if we succeed in that, I don't see any reason why very shortly thereafter it could not be available on the website.
I also understand along with the budget, you will furnish a staffing plan, proposed staffing plan, personnel?
Well, the manpower table is part of the budget. So yes, it's not a separate, it is part of the whole budget. So when the book is presented to the council, manpower adjustments are part of that package.
And any deletions or cutbacks will be in there as well?
Yes.
Thank you. Any more questions from the table? Dr. Gouy?
Do we anticipate that November 16th is still a possibility?
We're looking at more than one day, so we're looking, the email that went out is for November 16th through 18th, but I have not gotten much response. So that's still also kind of up in the air.
I'm good with 16.
16?
I'm good with 16 and 17. I'm not going to be there on the 18th.
Right.
No, Doc's trying to plan a schedule.
Trying to.
Right, I understand that. I just, I haven't, Councilmember Bartholomew, did you finalize? I know you were supposed to look at your calendar.
I'm open but the 12th.
Okay. So we're just missing Councilmember Arborough and Black.
Mr. Blank?
16 is good for me. The digital copies, if we could have one of those, that really makes life easier sometimes. It's probably save paper. We don't necessarily need I might not need a 4-inch 3-ring binder of the budget. If I could just have it digital, it'd just be a lot easier to use.
And
That's all.
Councilmember Blake, I want to remind you, it's not just one day. It's those 3 days.
Understood.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more comments? We'll move to the next item, please.
A resolution to cancel the November 26, 2020, and December 24, 2020 regularly scheduled council meetings due to the Thanksgiving holiday and Christmas holiday, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered. Seconded by Ms. Newberry. Any questions from the table? Audience? Machines are open. Mr. Russo? And the measure passes 7-0.
Councilmember LaFrance, are you withdrawing you?
Ma'am?
Are you withdrawing you?
We have her, right?
Yes,
But the state said it was gonna name her, right?
correct. That's why
Okay.
I'm asking you if you're going
Okay.
to withdraw it.
Because of we having to cancel that meeting last week, and the deadline was up. But the person who we was choosing, who we was recommending, she was on the top of the list, so she's going to be recommended.
So why don't we just pass this and send it to the state and let them do what they got?
We can. That's fine.
Let's roll with it.
Okay. Did you read it? No. Okay.
A resolution
Fill in the
appointing,
name?
Yeah, she needs
Okay.
the preamble.
a resolution appointing a replacement member to the Plaquemines Parish Government Civil Service Commission for the position left vacant by Mary Fay Legnon, whose term will expire on December 31, 2020, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered. Please fill in the name.
Yes, on line 17, it's Dr. Louise F. Katnaugh. I think that's how you pronounce it. Okay.
Cottonbach?
Kaffenbaugh, there you go.
Oh, mine would have to go on the computer.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong resolution with the line number. Wherever there's a blank one there, that's where you fill in Dr. Louise. She's filling Mary Legnon's term that ends in 2022, so that's why her term expires then. Yeah.
Okay. So offered. Seconded by Mr. Russo. Any comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-0. Next item, please.
Item 10, new business. District 9, update, Councilmember LaFrance. Digging ditches. I'm sorry, Cognovich.
You have him on it.
Wait a minute. You like calling that name. The only difference between me and him, my hair's black. Go ahead, Mr. Cognovich.
Have a few ditches in Venice and all, might need to see about getting dug one day, and got a call from Hillcourt today about knocking that hill down on Tidewater Road, if we could do that. You know, that big hill that we got with the blacktop, crushed blacktop? Yeah. Yeah,
Do you think that material could go in the hole over on Coast Guard Road?
good.
Is that the end? Yeah.
But they asked me if we could knock it down.
Just bring it down level again.
Yes, sir.
But they had raised it.
Yeah.
So, all right.
But since the river's low and all, they complaining about the hill now. And that's,
I'll get with you on the ditches.
all right, thank you. And this Saturday, we having a cleanup Fort Jackson Day, and I'd appreciate everybody who uses the fort to be there to help clean up. Thank you.
Well, okay, where are we with the ditches being dug? I was promised that I was gonna get 5 dug, but anyway, I'll get with you later.
Okay.
I'll get with you. Okay. You finished, Mr. Konovich?
Yes, sir.
Item C?
District 8, update, Councilmember Blink. Jesuit Bend Drainage Project update by the Engineering Department.
Sure, I'd like to share with folks at home where we're at on getting this project completed. Mr. Dugas, please.
We're gonna make them earn this money the last few minutes.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, sure. Could you please just give an update where we're at on getting the project completed?
The plans were just about finalized, except for the fences need to be addressed. Any obstructions that were on a servitude need to be addressed. We sent a letter out notifying all the residents along both servitudes to clear their property, their personal property, private property, fences, swings, whatever, off of the servitude. If we are going to have to do that with a contractor, of course, it's going to cost us more money.
Certainly.
The letters all went out to the folks yesterday, so they should receive it this week. They'll have 30 days to remove their property.
Got it. Thank you very much. Do you anticipate a surveyor going out and put some sort of stakes or markers to alert the property owners that there is or isn't something on that drainage right-of-way? And the second part to the question, some folks, instead of knocking down their brick fence or their orange tree or whatever, they're almost willing to, take the chance and see if the contractor can work around it a little bit. In some cases, they probably can. Some cases, they can't. I think a lot of folks are unaware where exactly that drainage right-of-way was when they purchased their homes. A lot of them are second or third. It's the second or third owner in those homes there. So, but anyway, do you know if a surveyor is going to go out and mark those drainage right-of-ways so folks will know that their fence maybe is or isn't in the way?
We can have that done.
Okay. I think that's a good middle ground there where folks know where they stand and they could have their property moved. All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions on the Jesuit Bend drainage issue? Oh, Mr. Valley.
Ms. Newberry and Mr. Blink, you all brought Ken and the staff down to had a public meeting down at the convention center and told all the homeowners that were interested in what was going to happen on that. The big thing was concerned about, like you said, their backyards. When is it going to happen and what's there? I think you all have identified all the encroachments already.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not a question of what's there. They know it already. And I think you were talking about one time about having provisions in your contract with the contractor to take down those if the homeowners didn't take it down. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so there's money there, and with the parish, so it's not necessary. The big thing is going out there marking when it's going to happen. Has the contract been let yet, Ken? I'm sorry?
Excuse me. We haven't advertised the project yet. We're anticipating the 30-day window to go through if the obstructions aren't taken out. In the meantime, we're going to advertise. The plans are ready to go. So as soon as we give the folks a chance to remove their property, if we come through, unless legal tells us otherwise, I don't think it's our responsibility to put the fences back.
No.
So if they put the fences on the servitude, or the previous owners put it on the servitude, I think we go through and put the new drain lines in and correct the hazardous situation that we have.
Can you put together a written timeline for all these homeowners as to what's going to happen when and where?
The letter we sent out had an attachment to the letter showing the addresses that did have fences that were encroached. The timeline for them to finish removing their property, I believe, is November 12th, or something like that. So it's going to happen quickly. We should be advertising this project before Thanksgiving.
Okay. That sounds good. Thank you very much for working diligently behind the scenes.
Last thing, one of the questions at the time when the presentation was made, Ken, was that the back canal where the levee is getting ready to get raised had blockage in it, where all this water is going to, with the new drain pipes, going to drain into it. Are you going to be able to clean out that canal as well?
It's up to Scott.
Can you clean that canal out with funds out of this budget, out of this pipe? The back canal has got damaged blockage in it. You were back there, Richie, cleaning that canal out yourself.
I inspected it from the Ollie pump to as far as south as I can go. There was an entire tree blocking the canal. I'd shared that information with Scott. I think I sent a formal work request in.
This new drainage pipe is going to put additional water in that canal.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Next item, please.
District 1 update, Councilmember Bartholomew.
Yes, I have several concerns. One is mainly I talked to Mr. Todd Epley about the project of English Turn, the water line that's replaced. There was a concern about the ditches. Has that been corrected? Ken?
I believe the parish had a crew cleaning out some of the local ditches adjacent to the
That was
water
this-
line project.
Was that this last week or this week? Because I got a call about it this week. Last week, I'm sorry, about it, because I referred it to Mr. Epley about it.
We rode the job last week, and they had several, two in particular, that were freshly dug or regraded. So I'm not sure if that's the same ones you're talking about.
I know they have one area to the end of it in English Turn. The guy have a drainage pipe that runs through the whole area, and they covered the whole pipe.
Oh, yeah, we talked to the landowner. We
Okay.
did, when we were out there, he came out and met us.
Yeah.
And we're going to have Bo Brothers go back out and clear that pipe
But
out.
it hasn't been completed. Okay,
Yes.
good. Thank you. The other, while you're there, hold up. Highway 15 low end.
Yes, sir.
It's terrible. What we expect to get something done there? Because
We were
instead
hoping
of
to have-
decaying, the whole
We were hoping
thing
to
is
have the
decaying.
patches done this year, but it looks like it's going to be the beginning of next year.
When the last time you been down that way? Can you take a ride down there next week, maybe? I'll tell you what, when we have council meeting down
Might
there,
have been
come kind of
Thursday.
early.
It might have been Thursday last week. We went and rode the project.
Yeah, just come down there, maybe next
We were
council
looking at,
meeting.
you had three concerns with the fence by the Jordana property.
No, I didn't have any of that.
Yeah, it's about Assumption Church. We got it.
Okay.
And then they had
Oh, that was a
two
long
other concerns you had on Highway 15 that were potholes that Prom took care of already. So we
On the
verified
ball,
those were
on the
done.
ball. I just got to get that low end. We have to do something.
We are, Mr. John.
It's bad, 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 bad. Now, Mr. Russell, the tractors, are they any good? The ones that we have in the shop, or we need to look at trying to get some money to buy you some more tractors? Because, I know you can't do nothing without the equipment. Are they worth saving, you think?
Well, we are waiting for the companies to finish working on them, yes. Some of them have been there a while and haven't completed. They are older tractors. Yeah, I could say we could use 5 tractors. Do we have the money? That's
Something
another
might
thing.
happen. We maybe might get lucky ones. If they get some money in, we might be able to do something. Okay?
Right.
Because I know you don't want to be spinning the wheel or trying to get them repaired for this, then a month or 2 months later, they're back in the shop again for something else. That means they're completely worn out.
Yeah, it does happen. You fix one thing, like you said, 2 months later, something happens sooner. Sometimes something else happens,
You got, even though the guys are working, doing other things that normally would drive the tractors, it's kind of hard to keep up that whole area with just the two that's maintained.
Well, we should have,
But they're doing a good job at doing what they're doing. But it's just hard to keep, they can't keep up,
with a John Deere 15-footer, with the oil cooler had a leak in it.
Oh, okay.
And it's something that's not repairable, so
And
I
you're-
think they went and picked it up today. And we should have that back together pretty soon, so you'll have another one, and then we're waiting for the others to be finished fixed at the other shops.
Okay, thank you. One more thing. Eppley, the ice machine at Percy Griffin Center, it's out. I don't know if you know about it, but it's out. So whenever you get a chance to get it kind of straight, get somebody to look at that.
Yes, sir, we've gotten an estimate from a company to repair that ice machine. It's around $4,000. We're looking at getting another estimate to see if we can get it repaired or replaced, and hopefully trying to get something a little cheaper than that. But we are working on trying to get the ice machine rectified.
How much is a new one, roughly?
Close to $4,000.
Might be better buy a new one before you get the pen to repair that. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir.
District 7 update, Councilmember LaFrance.
Thank
Diamond Park concession stand update.
A couple of weeks ago, we had prom came and cut trees down some of the subdivisions because of the children weren't able to catch the bus down the lane. The bus drivers didn't want to go through it. I just want to say them guys did an excellent job. They cut the trees all the way back. Thank you, Mr. Valley, for offering that man lift. They did an excellent job. The parents and the children, they are happy now they could catch the bus. They wanted to let y'all know that they appreciate what y'all done. The fishing pier, I went there Saturday morning. They had enough room for the people to get on. They're really enjoying it. They did an excellent job. There are just a couple of planks. They are missing some screws. But the residents are truly enjoying it. And the people from out of town, from New Orleans, they're enjoying it too. They caught a few fish. Yes, they're doing pretty good. Not yet. That's what I'm about to ask. Do you have any idea when we're going to have the lights installed?
That's October, they should be down there now, it's the 13th. The 12th and 13th, they were supposed to start on the electricity.
Uh-huh.
And we'll have all that finished, and we'll have everything fixed up, and we'll have a grand opening for you.
Excellent, excellent.
Down there now. We're getting everything put in place. We'll have signage put in place, and we'll even have some size limit signs made so they can measure their fish, so they don't get no trouble or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it came out pretty good. There is a few loose boards, but
Mm-hmm.
I think we could dock a cruise ship up against that thing.
Right. Because when I got there, I said, well, what are y'all doing on that? We didn't know. Open this. This has not been approved yet. I said, oh, it's open. They say, oh, it's open. Mr. Eppley, can you tell me where we at on the AC for the community center YMCA Port Sulphur?
Yes, sir. After the legislation was passed authorizing the money for the air conditioner, we did the requisition, received the PO, issued the PO to Energy Specialists, who was the company. They ordered the equipment. The tentative delivery date for the equipment to be at the building is November 23rd.
Wow. It's not going to be ready for Thanksgiving.
Not likely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank y'all, all administration, for what y'all do for our parish, for our people in our parish. Thank y'all. Next item, please.
District 5 update. Number 1, discussion of Medal Honor Park drainage pond and sluice gate by Mr. Wilson Hildebrand. Number 2, status of Engineers Road drainage project. Number 3, discussion and update of 2020 census. Number 4, update and discussion on Todd Eppley's efforts on Infomark's contract. Number 5, update and status report on COVID in the parish. And Mr. Chairman, I have an email regarding number 1.
You would like for to read it right now, Mr. Russell?
Yeah, please, he's on. Mr. Hildebrand, we are addressing your question right now.
Will Hildebrand, 116 Pie Street, Belchase, Louisiana. This question is directed to Parish President Lapine or his administrative assistant, or his administrative representative. What is the status on the pump station discharge hose and sluice gate at the Medal of Honor pump station? Number 1, has the sluice gate been repaired? If not, has the drainage department engineered the repairs and sent them out for bids? Number 2, has the discharge pipe for the pump been acquired and installed? Number 3, has the diesel engine and pump been tested and certified for operation? We are now in the heart of hurricane season. Please repair this pump as soon as possible to help protect our subdivision from flooding. Waiting for your response to the questions.
It'd have been nice to have those questions so I can know what to answer, but anyhow, the hose has been bought and purchased. We bought some lumber, we have to refix the foundation where the motor is. So we have to work on that because it hadn't been tended to in years. I couldn't tell you the last time it ran. And we have a company out checking on the engine itself and making sure it's going to run properly. After that, we'll have to get another company to check the pump to make sure it pumps good. So we're working on that. As far as the discussion on, what else they got up there?
That's all you got?
The sluice gate, Ken can answer that question with the sluice gate, all right?
All right, for the sluice gate that is by the lagoon, by the Medal of Honor Park, and also the one that is near A&L Sales up towards Domino's, both of those gates are now under contract to be, those gates are non-existent. Those pipes will be corrected, and the ditch that runs from Barrier Road to Barrier Canal will be filled in with additional pipe. So we're looking to replace the whole section through there, which would include new sluice gates.
And are you talking about by Covert Road?
By Covert Road and by the Medal of Honor Park. If you close one, if you fix one and not the other, you're not doing any
No, I
good.
understand.
So we're going to take care of both of those.
Okay.
But we're under contract right now with a designer to do that.
Who's doing the engineering?
It's Principal Engineering.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Engineers Road Drainage Project's the next one.
Yes, sir. So we've met with DOTD and a plenary group that are doing the bridge project, and a lot of the drainage that we had proposed with the HMGP project is overlapped by West X and the new crossing under Engineers Road. So we're right now trying to figure who's going to pay for it, if it's going to be the plenary group paying for it, or if it's going to be FEMA paying for it. So we're having that discussion, but I can tell you that the design is basically done from West X coming around. The overlap part of it is basically done.
Well, you know, I had this meeting before, a couple of months back. We have the same discussion. So I'm trying to find out what has changed since then, because it was my understanding that Trigon's engineering for that project, and they were seeing if they were going to use Trigon's engineering or plenary, and there was about a $250,000, $300,000 dispute between the two projects. And so I guess what I'm asking, I've heard this presentation before, about 3 months ago. So have we made some progress on that as to plenary's going to pick it up, or?
That's where we are.
So we haven't made any progress?
No, what we have made progress is that there was a discussion on West X. Trigon had it on one side of West X, plenary had it on the other, the subsurface drainage on the other side of it. So we got to an agreement why one picked the other side versus the other. And they came to an agreement, and now we are trying to figure out the $300,000 number difference. I don't know where that number came from.
It came from
I know who said it, but I don't know where he came up with that number.
I know, but I don't want you to mislead thinking that I just made that number up.
No, you didn't. You was told the same, I heard at the same meeting, the virtual meeting that you and I attended some months ago, that $300,000 number, I don't know how that came about. I think mobilization, he was trying to figure it was going to be However, the difference in the money, the West Tech, the overlap portion, we should have that dollar amount identified soon. And when I say soon, I mean in the next 30 days. So once that's done, then it's trying to figure out who is going to pay for it. So
So who did we pick? We picked on the Trigon, or we picked the plenary design?
they came to an agreement where the lines, you had one pipe was an arch pipe, one was a round pipe. Okay, one was on the left side of West Tex, one was on the right side of West Tex. So the crossing on the Engineers Road, which is the vital culvert that needs to be installed so that area would stop flooding, that, they both agreed on that size pipe and at the same location. So we did make some progress, just we're not there yet, almost. And the plenary group wants to have this done. They're pushing us to get all of this. We got the sewer and water lines that need to be relocated throughout that area, that we're working with them on that. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting coming up.
The plenary's going to replace all of that? Sewer and water lines?
We're having a meeting this Thursday regarding that.
That toll,
Who's paying for it?
that toll is going to grow. Yeah, all right.
Anything else?
Leave it at that. Now, we've already discussed the census. The next one is Mr. Epley's efforts on Infomark. About 4 months ago or so, I had asked you to research or get with Infomark to look at if there's any potential savings in their contract. And some of the discussion that I've had, I believe, like we had talked about the automatic water meter reads, that you know, we said we're going to have the same amount of meter readers and we're not reducing it, but because of cutoffs and cut-ons, I would believe that if we would go in the direction of more coordination with Infomark to allow them to maybe do some of those cutoffs and cut-ons, and also if you would purchase some automatic, a couple of hundred automatic meter reads that can be cut off from the office, you'll eliminate sending those people out to the field. And the way you do that is that the consistent violators who you go turn off every 2 or 3 months or every month, you put an automatic meter reader there that can be controlled from the office because the software can handle that, and you will reduce the amount of field work tremendously by just taking a couple of those couple hundred meters, if that's how many turnoffs you have in a regular period of time. And those numbers can easily be gathered by looking at the shut-offs and shut-ons from the same people. So my point is that we can make some efficiencies there. That's why I had asked you to look at what could possibly be happening with Infomark's contract, if there's a way we can reduce it, because we're coming up to the budget hearing. That's why I had asked some time ago. And what brought this on was a year ago at a crawfish bar, when Infomark's new guy came in, he told me that he was going to be looking at some efficiencies in the contract. He told me that at the crawfish bar, never heard from him again. So evidently, there's got to be some way we can do something.
Well, I haven't heard from the guy from the crawfish ball either. I have been sitting with Robert Morgan. We have talked about this contract on more than one occasion. The one thing about this contract is it was signed in 2013 for 3 5-year terms. So their contract is good till the end of 2028. Now, they may be willing to work with us in the contract and work on some savings in the contract. In the best way that we've identified is through the chemical process. We currently, Plaquemines Parish government, purchase all the chemicals, and we have to purchase them at state bid. Infomark, being a nationwide company, has more purchasing power and is able to actually purchase the chemicals cheaper than we can. So we're looking into the possibility of switching that and getting Infomark to do the chemical purchasing and passing on the savings to us. The other thing we've done is I've looked at their CPI increase. So in their contract, they get a CPI increase, a consumer price index increase every year. When the contract was signed in 2013, they were using month 5 and taking the consumer price index from month 5, and that's the month they were using every year to calculate the increase. In 2019, they decided to start using month 3. So by doing that, they increased their contract more than what they should have. They should have stayed with the month 5. I sent them emails, went through Robert Morgan, we went back. Long story short, they did agree that what they were doing was wrong. They needed to go back to month 5 to use the CPI index. I calculated it for them, told them what their increase should have been. So this past year, we got a bill for an increase of about $14,000 a month. It should have been less than $9,000 a month. That's been handled. They've given us a credit for that, and we're paying the correct amount of money in their CPI increase.
Okay, so I would hope that those discussions would continue as far as some of the points that I have made when we began this discussion a few minutes ago. I do think that they are willing to expand their contract, like I'm saying, to some of these shut-offs and cut-ons, and that may save us some money because I understand they have to go out and locate the meters most of the time anyway. And, you know, I'm not sure where we're going to go with the water.
They've been locating meters, or helping us locate meters as we go through the process of changing out meters from the old meters to the new electronic meters. Yes, we have had help from them to go locate some accounts that have been inactive. But aside from that, generally we don't use Infomark unless there's a problem on the parish side of the meter where it's the curb stop valve that has a problem or needs to be replaced, or the whip that comes from the tap or something like that.
Right, but I do think that there's some savings to be had with buying a couple of hundred of those automatic meters that you can shut off from the office right here, and implementing that type of aggressiveness on the people that you're going to wind up cutting off and cutting on.
We'll look into it.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Item, please. G.
Update by Mike Metcalf regarding the adoption of flood maps. Councilmember Rousseau.
Mr. Metcalf has not been available several months. Does he still work in the department?
He does.
And does he come to work during the daytime?
He does.
But he can't come to a public meeting, right?
Correct.
And because of a health reason, I understand?
I have consulted with Human Resources on his issue. Human Resources has advised me it's an issue that I'm not allowed to talk about.
It's just hard for me to understand how he can go to the office, but he can't come to this office.
It's not up to me.
But it got people's minds wondering, what's the deal, you know?
Well, and I understand people's minds can wander. I've been informed, instructed by Human Resources that this is not an issue that I can elaborate on.
I understand that, and I'm not asking you to divulge anything, but I am making a statement that it's got people's mind wondering if he can go to the office and work over there, but he can't come over here, which is about 1,000 feet away.
As you know, we discussed this earlier, and I think, Mr. Rousseau, you asked the parish president to make a report back to you. My concern is if the individual can't perform his tasks of the floodplain elevation, can you substitute somebody to handle that job?
don't have anyone.
There's no one there. I'm like you, I have a problem with it. This has been going on for 4 months, and we've asked for this.
Not just this issue, we also have this Louisiana Watershed Initiative that I've been assigned to deal with, and I'm not a floodplain manager. You know, I know a little bit about coastal restoration, but interior flooding is not my specialty. Mike Metcalf should be handling it. I've sent 3 emails to the administration, and it's radio silence. We
I never got an
need
email
this
from you
gentleman
about
to
that.
work for us.
Did I get an email from you about that?
No, I think I sent that directly to Kirk.
I didn't know anything about any watershed management, and you having issues with Mike Metcalf. The guy's getting paid, he does his job, he's a building official, he manages the permit office. We have 2 people in the permit office in Belchase that handle permits all day long. I mean, you know, we do the best we can. If the budget was better and we had more employees, we could get a lot more done.
That's really an inappropriate conversation for this discussion, because you work all day, but you come here. That's all we're saying. And so, I mean, I'm not sure what the defensiveness is or what's going on, and I understand you can't talk about it, but I mean, to come up here and start talking about less employees and more employees, that's irrelevant. We're talking about one employee that we pay that comes to work every day but can't come here. It doesn't have anything to do with adding to the payroll, cutting the payroll, or anything like that. One issue. So you're confusing the issue.
Okay.
Thank you for this discussion. We'll move to item 11, please.
Approval of the minutes from the September 24th, 2020 meeting.
I so offer. Seconded by Ms. Newberry. Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-0. Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Gui. Machines are open.
That's a non-debatable item.
Mm-hmm. And the measure passes 7-0. We will have adjournment at 6:50.